Everybody hear me? Okay, good, excellent. My name is I-Kaui, and I'm here today to share with you my story about how I become an American citizen. People become an American citizen in different ways. It could be as a scientist, as an artist, performer, a nurse, or a chef. And the route I took was through being a forester. And we heard people talking about pursuing American dream. And for me, life is like a movie, and everyone plays a role in the movie. However, the camera continues to roll, and there is no pause, there is no retake, and you cannot rewind, and you cannot replay. And sometimes you have to be outside of the movie as an audience to figure out what's going on in your life. So here I begin. I was born in 1960, and okay, I came from the other side of the globe. A place called Taiwan, and things are very different out there. When it is time for us to go to bed, and it is time for them to wake up, and in greetings, and we say good morning. Over there, people will say 早安, morning, good, and then we say Mr. Hong, and they would say Hong, Mr. And I was born in 1960, and you do the math, and you know how old I am. And when I was born, my parents gave me the name I-Kai. I in Chinese means happy, and Kai is another word for happy. So I'm supposed to be double happy, happy, or happy square. And we live in a small town, and not far away from our town, there's a forest. It's an experimental forest managed by the National Taiwan University. That is one of my favorite places to go to as a child. The first time I visited the forest was when I was 6 years old. So you can see in this 1966 picture, I was on the first row in the picture. And in the background, you see a giant tree, the giant cypress tree. And it was estimated about over 1,000 years old. And it belongs to the same family as our giant I-Kaui on the west coast. And to the right, you see another picture that was taken 10 years later. And the tree didn't seem to grow much, but the boy did grow a lot in 10 years. And as a child, I was kind of shy, and I tried to avoid interacting with people. So I like to be with trees other than with people, because trees don't talk back. People do. So when I was in middle school, I went to I happened to see a movie, and in the movie there's a boy who is a college student majoring in forestry, and there's the girl, and she gave the boy full support pursuing his career as a forester. And in the end of the movie, they got married, and they lived a happy life in the forest. And after the movie, I told myself, oh, this is what I want. So I went to college and getting my undergraduate degree in forestry. One is not enough, so when I went on, get my master's in forestry, and as I wished, and I got a job as a field forester with experimental forest, the same forest I've been visiting since my childhood. And I got married, a forester, and my wife, we went to college together, so we got a job, and we had a family, and we had a house. I said, oh, that's great. That will be the rest of my life. So working as a field forester with experimental forest after 13 years, and I found out that is not what I thought, because I spent more time working with people other than with trees. So here's another picture in front of the same tree, and I became older and more people in the picture. And that was when I was the director of a recreation area of the experimental forest. I was giving a tour to a group of congressmen. And so one day, there an opportunity came up, and the university was sponsoring the experimental forest staff advanced study abroad. So I talked to my wife, should we try? So we decided to give it a shot, and luckily our application was approved. So here I am, Texas. And people ask me, why Texas? And the answer is very simple, because Stephen F. Austin State University was the first school giving me the admission. So here I am, right before I turned 40, I came to Nacogdoches. And we flew into Dallas, and my brother drove us to Nacogdoches. And the first night we checked in to a motel on the south side of the town, and when the sun set, and we felt so depressed. And my wife told me, "Kai, let's go home." And so later in the night, we were driving around town looking for some foods, and suddenly we saw a sign. It's a Chinese restaurant. Yeah! And we told ourselves we were saved. So we begin our new life in a few days, and we move into an apartment. That is quite an experience of life starting over. And here's a picture of us sitting on the floor. That was our first supper in the apartment. Outside the apartment, there's a crab myrtle tree, which is something I can recognize. Starting in forestry, and we learn how to identify trees. So we do know this is the same tree we had back in Taiwan. It happened we had one in our yard. And so we didn't feel too bad, not too far away from home. We still have the same tree. And so life continues. However, you would agree with me, living in a foreign country, language barrier is the most challenging. And there are many, many times we got in trouble, or something funny happened to us. And one day we were eating in a Chinese restaurant in town, and we looked through the window on the other side of the street, and there is a sign saying substation. And we thought, oh, that's great. We are living in a modern city with a subway system. But we wonder why we don't see people come in and out from the station. And later we figure out it's a substation of file station. And it's not, there's no subway at all. And I was unable to pronounce the R sound. It's very hard for me to pronounce R. I could pronounce L. So it took me years to finally be able to tell people I visited Rhode Island, but not Long Island. And on the first day of the school for my kids, school system is still very different from what they used to have. And then after the school, they came home, and both of them, they were 8 and 10, they both rushed into the restroom. I said, what's going on here? And they said they didn't go to restroom in school because they didn't know how to ask in English. That's because of language barrier. So we settled down, and I enrolled as a master graduate student at the College of Forestry, Stephen F. Austin University. And I study and I work with a group of foreign students. No, I am the foreign students, and they are not. And I introduce myself to my fellow students. I'm Peter from Taiwan. And look at me. Are you sure? Do you have Peter, John, Michael in Taiwan? I said, of course not. Then you are not Peter. You are who you are. So I'm back to I-Kaui, happy. And one day, my professor, my major professor, was looking through my transcript. Initially, I planned to stay for 2 years to get a master's degree, and we'll return to Taiwan. And he looked at me and he said, okay, I saw you had already had a master's degree back in Taiwan, and why don't you pursue a PhD? And I told him, I'm too old. I was 40. And he said, look at me, who's older? Of course you are. So I was convinced. So I began to pursue my PhD and expecting spending more years and in the States. And also, they granted me a teaching assistant, and I clearly remember my first time teaching the lab. I saw all of the students' eyes wide open, and they were very focused to trying to figure out what this guy is trying to say. And at the end, I felt very, very, very uncomfortable with my body. And later I learned that was you have butterflies in your stomach. And even up to today, at this moment, I can still feel butterflies in my stomach, although they become smaller. And you know how much we miss seafood coming from Taiwan. We miss those seafoods really from the sea. But we were disappointed that the crawfish we have here is not fish at all. So during our adventures, and we learned many, many things. And we know people are different. However, we are the same mankind. We should enjoy and appreciate that diversity. And we understand the world is not perfect. And let's try to always look at the bright side. When the door is open, when the door is closed, and there is a window open. And I always tell my children, don't hesitate to help people. I told them the way we are able to stand here today is because many people have helped us. And when we first moved into the apartments, there's a neighbor downstairs, his name is Steve. He gave us a phone. And he knew we were new to the country, we need a phone to call home. And he just gave us the phone without asking anything for return. One day I went to the Social Security office applying for my Social Security card that was needed for my scholarship. And I asked the lady, could I also apply for my family? And the lady went back inside and in return shortly, and she told me I couldn't find any regulation that would prevent your family from getting Social Security. So the way she treated me taught me that I should always find ways to help people. However, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. You will never know what will happen. 10 years ago, 2003, Space Shuttle Columbia fell upon Dodgy skies, and it was a disaster. And many people volunteered for the search and rescue effort, and I was one of them. And it happens that the geospatial science skills I had was able to contribute to the effort. At the end, one of my colleagues gave me an American flag. He said, I thank you for your help on behalf of American people. And I still keep that flag. So finally, I graduated and I got my PhD in at the end of 2002. And then we found we were facing a hard decision to make. Should we stay or return? If we try to stay, I have to find a job, and the employer is willing to support my work visa. If we returned, what would happen to our children? Are they able to adjust to the school back in Taiwan? And one night I was looking through my contact list of Taiwan. I kept it on a digital device for years, and by accident I hit the delete key, and it was gone. Oops, and there's no way back. In fact, what concerned us most is the education for our children, so we decided to stay, and I began to look for jobs, and we went from interview to interview, and luckily I found one right at home here at Stephen F. Austin University, so I became a faculty member of the College of Forestry. And luckily, my college was very supportive of my green card or permanent residence application. And the application is employment-based. It was submitted by the employer, but not by me. It took me a couple months to finally gather all of the paperwork, and including all certificates, diploma, references, all put together. And once it is submitted, that's the beginning of the long wait. I remember many, many times I woke up in the middle of nights. I jumped onto the computer checking my status online. They will let you know what case numbers they were processing at that time, and you look at your number and you know where you are down the road. And one night I saw the magic word, approved. I couldn't believe myself, so I woke up my wife, and it took us a while to convince each other that was real. So once you receive your green card, as long as you obey the laws and you've been a good community member, after 5 years you will eligible to apply for the citizenship. Our application for citizenship went smoothly, but we do have to take the test. You have to pass the test to become an American citizen. And the test is about American history, American geography, and government. It's not too hard, but you have to study in order to pass it. So in 2011, and we went down to Beaumont and to the Federal District Court, and we took our oath. And on the same day, I returned to Naturalization to teach my evening class. And there was a group of students of mine. They gave me a welcome to America party. And finally, I feel that I am really part of it. So over the years, we learned many, many things. And people ask me, do you miss your homeland? Of course, I miss my friends, relatives back in Taiwan. However, I am always with my family. My family is here, and for me, home is where your family is. So now America is my homeland. And you might ask me, I-Kai, do you think you made the right decision bringing your family to America? And I don't see it as a yes or no question. Life is an experiment without a control unit. There's no way to compare. Once you take a route, there's no way to figure out what another route would end up with. You just have to move on. You just have to move on. And try to get involved with the community. I used to think one of the beauties starting forestry is being away from people. People talk back, trees don't. I was wrong because people is one of the components in anything. Usually that is the most important component. So you should get involved. And again, get ready for everything. Any challenges might come to you. Sometimes it seems like a crisis, but it is also an opportunity. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. So, in the mid-18th century, my ancestors moved from mainland China to Taiwan. Now I'm the first generation settling roots in America. Our family tree will continue. And I'm fortunate enough being able to pursue my childhood dream, becoming a forester and later becoming an educator. There's a Chinese saying, and growing trees we plant for decades, and growing people we plant for centuries. And again, people is the most valuable resource in our society. And let's try to always appreciate, dedicate, and enjoy the work we have. Let's try to always look at the right side and never hesitate to help people. A couple of years ago, I went back to visit the St. John's Cemetery. I was so glad to see it is there standing. And I believe and it will continue to stand for many centuries to come as long as we do a good job in managing our world. So finally, I say everyone is a giant as long as you can withstand the challenges. And that is the end of my story. Thank you.